Right then, here's a headline from today's Daily Star. It reads, "Up yours. As military top brass call for a citizens' army to face down Mad Vlad, 90% of us say we'd refuse to fight. Meanwhile, health chiefs say many Brits would be too fat to fight anyway." Now, unfortunately, this story is not going to be very interesting, and I'm not going to follow it with any sage advice or particularly wise commentary, because I've been saying this since I started the channel about 4 years ago, and I think anybody with half a brain has been saying it for 10. And I'm going to use two very different headlines to illustrate the point quite succinctly. So buckle up. Right then, here's the first headline from the story I covered yesterday. The quiet boy from a hard-working Christian family who became a triple killer. Oh, it makes your heart bleed, doesn't it? Why, look at those puppy dog eyes. He never dabbled in drink or drugs or anything, but he ended up knifing 3 people to death. Just mention that at the end. He ended up butchering a young woman in the middle of the street like an animal. Alright? But he gets a nice write-up from the apparently right-wing news media. So what do you think the BBC said about it? If it was down to the BBC, Valdo would be out next year and he'd be working as a lollipop man outside a primary school in Birmingham. Now let's look at another crime. Slightly less brutal, just a bit, slightly less damaging, and we'll see how that one gets reported, shall we? Far-right activist ran downloadable library of reprehensible white supremacist stickers. First things first, if you actually read the story, those stickers are not. Reprehensible white supremacist stickers would be like full-on neo-Nazi stuff with, I don't know, comical caricatures of blokes with lips like dinghies and bones through the noses. That's not what he was doing. Here they are, in fact. The messages included lines such as "Labour loves rape gangs." Is that reprehensible? At best, it's like sort of political propaganda. Well, it would be if he was lying. Obviously, that is a demonstrable fact. Evidenced by, I don't know, things like this. Labour should hang their heads in shame over the grooming scandals. I mean, it's not like what he's just said there isn't a demonstrable fact that everybody knows. That Gordon Brown, Tony Blair, dozens of police forces and thousands of government ministers, journalists, activists, lawyers and judges purposely, aggressively covered up the grooming gangs for decades. So is that a hateful message? Or is it just a factually accurate message? Answers on a postcard. What else is there? We will be a minority in our homeland by 2066. Also apparently factually accurate. Nothing insulting in there. It would only be reprehensible if it said, "We will be a minority in our homeland by 2066. ... Therefore, we should all tool up and commit an act of mass genocide against a one particular group of people that happen to look a little bit different from me." That would be a hateful message. But it wouldn't be a very good sticker, would it? Little bit lengthy to make a powerful sticker. Mass immigration is white genocide? Possibly. Again, you could make that argument. A little bit hyperbolic, I would say. And then the last one is the only one that I think you could say is actually far right, right? Because, I mean, I don't think most right-leaning people in the UK would support deporting fourth-generation people, right? So you could argue the last one is a very fringe belief, but the rest of it is the most milquetoast messaging ever. And even the last one doesn't cross a line into hate speech. It doesn't single out a single people, a single race, a colour or a creed. It's his opinion. I may disagree with it, but he's entitled to it. We used to believe in a free country where you could say things like that. At the end of the day, if Abu Hamza could go 2 decades calling for the mass slaughter of people and nothing was said until we finally had to use the Americans to lock him up because we couldn't manage it. It's preposterous to say such things about the bloke. And of course he got found guilty. So why am I talking about these two very differently covered incidents? Why? Because of the original story. What I'm about to tell you is not controversial, and I am the man in the street. I'm a working class lad from one of the most impoverished towns in Britain who joined the military as a teenager. I am the backbone of the British Armed Forces, and I'm telling you, after I deployed happily 5 times, invaded Iraq, invaded Afghanistan, went to Northern Ireland, Sierra Leone, I went all over the place, and I was happy to do my duty. Because like most normal working class, salt of the earth chaps, I was happy to fight for my country because I felt I belonged there. I felt I was given a gift by my forebears, a precious gift, and it was my duty to fight for it, to bequeath that gift to the next generation. I was passionate about my country. It means something to me, like it used to mean something to everyone. Greeks are proud, Poles are proud, Australians are proud, and guess what? Nigerians are proud. It's human nature to try and be proud of where you come from so you don't hate yourself, to feel like you're part of a community, a greater whole. It's common sense that a 4-year-old could grasp. But the powers that be, the imbeciles that run the United Kingdom, as I have rightly been pointing out for at least 5 years, ignored their base and started pandering to people that will always hate them. Cleverer people than me have made this point. Peter Hitchens has been talking about it for 12 years. The somewheres and the anywheres. You have to play to your base. What happened is the British government took the base for granted and started going, okay, we've already got the patriotic white working class vote. We've already got that. So let's try and woo purple-haired heffalumps that call themselves, well, self-avowed communists. When you're talking about the likes of Ash Sarkar, they are proudly telling you what they are.
Hero Obama.
He's not my hero. I'm a communist, you idiot.
You didn't plan any protests against him, did you?
Think how dense they are. The government, they can't be this stupid, so it must be arrogance. Mid-wit IQ, but arrogance. They actually thought, the likes of Tom Tuggantwat, they actually thought, using propaganda, they could convince literal communists, Guardian readers, the woke, the social justice activists, the militant far left. They actually thought what they could do was take the Conservatives for granted and then somehow win the commies over. Nice one. We'll get a great majority. You won't. You know what you'll do? You'll pander to the people that absolutely despise you. And then they'll still vote for the commies anyway. And you'll be left with nothing. And lo and behold, what's going to happen to the Conservatives in the next general election? Because people like me, who would have voted for a Conservative option, have abandoned them. And that neatly explains the recruiting crisis. Because do you think Dr. Shola and Ash Sarkar and all these other chances who come over to the UK for a free ride, who hate the country and run it down constantly, do you think they're going to fight for you? They're not going to vote for you, and they're not going to fight for you. And guess what? Now, neither are we, and neither am I. A child could have saw this coming. I'm more likely to want to fight for ISIS than the current British government, which is also an ironic thing to say, isn't it? Because, lo and behold, a story that I covered many years ago, more British regulars at Allen's have joined militant groups than serve in the armed forces. So well done, lads. You've spent years pandering to that lot. Done you loads of good, hasn't it? Brilliant. So enjoy yourselves, administering a nation reduced to rubble by pandering to people that despise you and always will. Meanwhile, Trump's playing to his base and he's doing well in the polls, and he did well in the last polls. Because a sensible person plays to the base and ignores the people that will never ever support them and will always hate them. And Europeans are going to learn to their cost exactly where this unbelievably short-sighted, stupid, arrogant ignorance is going to lead them. Because Europe has imported tens of millions of people that despise them and always will, no matter how many nice adverts you put on the telly, or how many homosexual Nigerians are snogging each other on the advert break while I'm trying to watch the bloody golf. Yeah, brilliant, brilliant. So that's why you're shagged, and that's why nobody wants to join the armed forces, and that's why nobody wants to vote for you. A special needs 8-year-old could have told you that, lads. But apparently Tobias Elwood and Johnny Mercer and Rishi Sunak and all the rest of the knobheads that run the country never saw any of this coming. Well, if they subscribed to the Angry Bootneck 4 or 5 years ago, you could have told them it all, couldn't he? But anyway, let me know what you think. As always, if you think that they're going to have an easy time recruiting morbidly obese, purple-haired lesbians, please let me know in the chat. Have a marvellous weekend, and I will see you all for a live stream at 7 p.m. tomorrow. All right? Have a good one. See you later. Cheers.